So anyone who knows me knows my addiction to smartphones. In recent years, manufacturers have slowly transitioned themselves into bigger, bulkier chassis. But for me, pocketability has always been one of my top priorities. And if you can't sit down without the phone protruding out of your pocket, having a cell phone is kind of pointless. I've always preferred smaller smartphones. I did try the 11 Pro Max for a few months and I just couldn't handle it. It didn't fit well in my jeans and my hands could barely reach the notification area, and its weight just felt like there was a raccoon living in my pocket. So I wanted to revisit a time when smaller phones were the norm. The latest second generation SE came out a few months ago and it was a solid overall phone for $399. But today I want to talk about the original SE and how it performs in 2020. So I managed to pick one up in immaculate condition, not a single scuff or dent anywhere. It actually looks brand new. I chose this phone too because it's my favorite generation iPhone simply because of its size and beautiful design. It's flat on all sides and has these nice curves on each corner, well thought out. The camera lens sits flush with the glass, which isn't seen on any smartphone today. It's just a simple slab of metal and glass, no gross camera bumps. In fact, if Apple made a phone with this body but stretched out to the screen all the way to the edges, so it's bezel-less, and you get rid of that huge chin and forehead and nuked the home button, this would be the ideal phone size for me. I mean, look, this phone is from 2016, but the design stems back from the iPhone 5 back in 2013. In phone years, that's ancient. But guess what? Because it's Apple, they support software updates on their devices for about 5 years or so. Now I gotta tell you, in 2020, this mighty mouse of a phone is still quick and smooth. This model has 128 gigs of storage, 2 gigs of RAM, which doesn't seem to affect the performance at all from my testing. I mean, if there's any lag, it's really, really small. And calls are still crystal clear. The bottom firing speaker sounds great, it's not tinny at all, and it's got 4K 30 FPS. That is awesome. Although cameras have taken impressive advancements in recent years, especially with the addition of wide-angle lenses and night modes, this can still shoot decent pictures, especially if you're just going to post it on social media, and the autofocus is still passable. Now, it's not as quick as Samsung, obviously, but it's not bad. And HDR is great on the rear. It's not bad to say the least. The vibration motor in this thing is really strong, and it's better and more noticeable than some newer Android phones, believe it or not. Nowhere to the bottom is something you don't see on phones today, the headphone jack. I was someone who resisted the whole Bluetooth wireless headphone movement, but after trying out Beats and Jabras and even the AirPods Pro, I finally understood why people started moving in that direction and the convenience that comes with it. Scrolling in apps and loading websites is only a hair slower than the iPhone 11 Pro. I tested a few apps side by side just to show how similar they are. And in those respects, you might just be surprised. And in the age of in-screen fingerprint sensors, this one doesn't have one, but it is embedded in the home button, which is a nice thing. And as far as build quality, it's there. The volume and power buttons are satisfyingly clicky, and they don't dance around in those metal cutouts. As far as the fit and finish, this is pretty impressive considering there's a 4-year gap between these two phones. So before you go calling me a sheep or an Apple fanboy, I do enjoy both iOS and Android, and both have their pros and cons. Although there's a few key features that continually pull me back to Apple and its ecosystem. And when you have an ecosystem as strong as Apple, and you have friends and family that predominantly use iPhones, it's the ease of use and the compatibility that's king for me in many ways. Now I'll get to why in a bit. Now because most of them live within Apple's sacred garden, and use the iPhone 10 or newer, it absolutely blows my mind how well this phone performs and converts to today's tech. Simply put, this thing can still easily run with a pack of newer, meaner, more seemingly feature-rich phones. But when you break down the everyday essentials, what you use the phone mainly for day to day, that perspective kind of comes into focus a little bit more. Let's jump in. Firstly, AirDrop. Sharing high quality media seamlessly with your friends and family, that's a go. Secondly, NFC. NFC in this little thing, using Apple Pay for merch with a simple wave or a tap, that's a go too. Next, iMessage. Okay, so there's no emojis available, but seriously, I used it once or twice on my iPhone 11 Pro and never really used it again. Yeah, at least you can react to messages with a thumbs up or even an exclamation mark. It also offers the animated reactions like the slam or the loud effect, so that's nice. Finally, because I do use them, compatibility with my AirPods Pro. I've tested them on calls and music, and it connects just as quickly as my iPhone 11 Pro does. The pairing is just easy. Now, with all the good I've mentioned so far, there's only a few things I'd consider as negatives if I had to nitpick. It's a smaller phone, which means a smaller battery running a slightly newer, more hefty OS. By the way, this thing still supports the latest 13.6.1, and I believe it's going to be getting iOS 14. I'm not sure, I'll have to double check. So you have to expect that battery life is going to be average compared to today's huge 4,000 plus milliamp batteries. I say average because it's still a 4-inch screen. So it's not running an OLED, it's not running a high refresh rate, so this isn't the most power hungry device, respectively. Apple likes to keep their OS simple and lean overall, so I'm gonna go with average. Another negative is the screen real estate. Most phones today rock a 6 to 6.5 inch screen or even larger. It's all about that bleeding edge, basilisk curved screen, front camera hole punch, in-screen fingerprint reader, but this is probably the oldest feature on the phone. Now, does it feel restricted while watching YouTube videos or reading some news? Definitely. Currently, I have an iPhone 11 Pro and Galaxy S20, so it was definitely an adjustment when I had to consume anything on this little screen. But honestly, that's it. I could not really find anything to gripe about besides those two things. All right, so let's wrap this up. In 2020, I'm gonna call this phone a sleeper, a mighty mouse, if you will. The fact that this can still handle all my daily tasks, whether it's using Siri or Google to set reminders or timers, controlling all my smart bulbs or thermostat throughout the whole house, even handling all my mobile banking with fast speeds is amazing to me. Its relevance in today's market is how it's supposed to be done. Great job, Apple. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.